One of my major complaints with this camera was always that autofocus was terrible, so I decided to do manual focus for this whole thing. Figured it doesn't shake and whatever. It's got image stabilization. Certainly important thing is definitely the colors. Can I edit the colors? Let's find out. Alright, so when it comes to the GH5, this was definitely where I wanted to take the test. You've seen what I've recorded so far, but when I took it back here to basically my studio to try to work with the colors, I was impressed. Now, all credit must go to that creator right there. His video was what basically inspired me to run this test with the GH5. He put this out a while ago, but I just wanted something simple and quick that could get me to work with the vlog footage of the GH5 and get it to run. Now, settings when it comes to the GH5 is very particular for me in fact, because the GH5 itself, the autofocus wasn't great because I'm using Metabone Speed Booster. I don't have any native glass, and that's due to the fact that I just prefer using the Canon EF glass and then absorbing more light with that system. I had to work with that, and what that meant is that I had to make the autofocus pretty much non-existent, turn it off, especially for the lens that I used, which was the Tokina 11-20 f2.8 lens. That lens, unfortunately, is unbearably loud when it's autofocusing, and it's even worse when you're using it with the GH5. And the image stabilization, I just turned it on, along with the digital image stabilization on the lens. So it does get a little noisy, but with that and the flip screen and then putting a microphone on it and walking, it's pretty good. But the biggest problem with the GH5, even worse than the autofocus for me personally, was the fact that the colors, especially when you're working with vlog, was just horrendous, and it was too time consuming, and I can never really get it perfect. Well, now with this edit and this type of quick tweak and a preset that I saved in Adobe Premiere Pro CC, it works just fine. Now, let me show you. Now, you're looking at the screen right now, and what we've got going on here is, on the left you have a preview monitor. I'm in the color workspace, but in this I've got pretty much the monitor right here on this side of what you see in the sequence. And if you look at this, to me personally, it looks nice. Colors are nicely balanced. It's not bad for a night shot. And if I turn off the color effects, that's what you get off of the GH5 in Vlog. And I'll turn that back on. I'll go to the master settings of this footage. As you can see, I had a channel mixer and RGB curves. Now, the trick to this is definitely the channel mixer, because when I turn off the channel mixer, it's kind of greenish, and it's kind of got that ugly GH5 color look that I don't appreciate, and it would take me forever to tweak. And RGB curves is what I applied to actually get the contrast a little bit more spread out rather than so flat. But when you apply the channel mixer, it adds a little bit more red. It gives me that vibrance, that look that I wanted from a shot that makes me feel like it's actually natural. Now here's another shot, and I pushed it at night because I know night, due to the high ISO and the different colors that you get at night versus traditional daytime settings, white balance settings on the camera, which could probably get you an easier time to color correct it. No, I wanted higher ISO and difficult colors to work with, where I had to manually white balance and then work here. And to me, this looks great. So in the next shot, I was actually in a dark green room. The colors here are magnificent. Now, I was saying before that the GH5 in itself shoots in green anyway, but let's go to the master and then turn off channel mixer, and that's what it looks like. It's, again, not too far off, but it gives it an extra pop when I add that. And of course, this is without the contrast added in, but this is what it was before. This is with the channel mixer. And the channel mixer itself, if you look at these settings that I've got right here on the channel mixer are basically standard settings that you apply specifically for the GH5. Now, these settings that I applied are the same for all vlog footage on the GH5. And I'll put the link to the video where I got them in this description so that you can definitely see it and then see where I got that from. So I turn on those corrections right here, and boom, it's done. It's done. But what is it like to apply that color correction, and how long would it take? Let's try this out. So now this footage right here, I was having dinner with a few friends. Now this room was basically red for the most part, and as you can see, I haven't put any color correction in this situation. So I'm going to do the simple color correction here by going into my effects. Now you can't see the channel mixer, but I'm going to take my face and I'm going to move it to this side so that you can see it. So now on this side, you see the fact that there's a preset that I've got saved here in the preset Vlog channel mixer. I'm going to move it up to here and the right settings. And then from here, I will actually go into RGB curves. Okay, there you go, RGB curves. And I'll grab that and I'll also add it here. Now with RGB curves, I will take this and kind of increase the brightness to that and like decrease. This is kind of like me adding contrast to the shot. Now I still have the full ability to tweak and play with these white balance settings and exposure contrast just like you get in Lightroom. But look at how long it took me to get this footage to look legit. Colors are nice and spread out. It was mostly a red room. Look at the way it is. I barely had to touch this footage and it went from this to that. And as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty accurate. I have no complaints with that. Now we'll go to an outside shot, basically unedited footage, unapplied with anything, no settings. And once again, I'm going to go to presets. Oops, let me clear out these settings. I'll put the RGB curves on there because I'm going to use RGB curves anyway. And then I'll just delete this. And then I'll go to presets and throw in the Vlog channel mixer again. And immediately, once I threw in the Vlog channel mixer, it worked. And I'll just change this, make it a little brighter, bring down the darker areas of the video to right about there. I think that's good, and I'm done, at least with this portion. Here is the before and after. Now if I turn off this channel mixer right here, look at how that looks. It doesn't look natural. It's got a greenish hue to it. It's not very well colored, and then boom, I add life. I love this edit. This makes the GH5 itself usable to me, and that's what I appreciate. I appreciated the fact that you can take the GH5 and I could use it a lot easier. That's all I cared about. Walking around in the actual daylight trying to put the colors through the test. I just tested them and they're really impressive. I was shocked at what I was able to do with that quick just kind of fix for the GH5 colors. Granted, the footage when I walk around is a little wonky up on the edges over there, but for the most part it kept me centered. And manual focus is manual focus. I saw that I went in and out of focus because I pulled the camera close or far, but at the very least I'm pretty pleased with what I have. So I might actually keep this as a simple vlogging setup. Not too light because this lens is kind of heavy, and now I'm all washed out over here, but to each his own. But I like it. See what we can do with it.